It's another nutty day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast, out of nowhere, has just announced the second edition of Mystery Boosters, and it is mind-blowing. It has some amazing reprints, but it also has some crazy new stuff, including the most broken mocks ever made. And on top of that, Wizards of the Coast has given more information about the upcoming Foundation set, and it's good news. It looks like Magic the Gathering is moving in the right direction.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another fat and juicy installment of Mega Magic News. We have the very interesting mystery boosters. We have the very heartening foundation stuff. So you know what? Let's start out by talking about the foundation set, and then we'll end off with the mystery booster craziness. Now, if you haven't already heard, Foundations is a weird beast, okay? Because it's a standard legal product that ignores the normal standard rotation. The way standard is supposed to work, at least currently, is it's supposed to be a 3-year format, right? Where stuff rotates out after 3 years. For the longest time it was 2 years, but they made a recent shift to 3 years. Foundations, however, is going to have a different timeline where they said they're going to keep it standard legal until at least 2029, which is, it's so weird to think about Magic in that long-term way. But ultimately, this feels like a pretty smart move overall because Wizards put themselves in a very ugly position. They kind of shepherded so many people onto Arena, and then they also turned around and said, well, Commander is the main thing, it's the big thing, so they started putting Commander decks with literally every product. And this led to a problem where people who just wanted to get into Standard, they'd walk in and be like, okay, I just want to start playing like paper Magic because I was playing on Arena, like how do I get into Standard? And they'd be like, well, we have Commander decks that you can buy. And it's like, no, I want a product for like starting out in Standard or just starting out overall. I'm like, well, we have Commander decks you can buy. Like there was pretty much no other options, which is very weird considering they used to have things like Challenger decks where it's like, grab this and you can be competitive. They used to have beginner products like Deck Builders Toolkits where you could just go, hey, I don't know that much. And they go, okay, buy this box. It's got a bunch of cards that you can use. You can tinker around with it. It's not automatically preset as one thing, but it is kept within a certain range. And it's a specific beginner product that makes sure to give you a lot of basic lands as well. Lands can be difficult to acquire as a Magic player, but all that stuff kind of fell by the wayside. And Wizards went, Commander, Commander, Commander. And then they went, hey, man, why is Standard floundering? Why are we having problems? And it's just like, oh, because we literally have no on-ramp for people, right? So that's where Foundations comes in. It's like, yo, you can get this product. It's going to be legal for years and years and years. So if you picked it up now, you're going to be able to use it for 4 or 5 years without it rotating out. Because rotation is when people can rotate out of Magic, right? Some of them will go, yo, I'm going to go to non-rotating formats like Modern, but a bunch of them will just go, wait, I can't use these cards anymore? Okay, forget it. I'm done. I'm not, like, I put a bunch of money and time into this and I can't use the stuff I like anymore. So this gives them a longer lifespan with that. So Foundations, the extra information that they've given us, because we talked about this in a previous video, the new information is they're going to be having a Jumpstart set that goes along with it. They're going to be made up out of cards, obviously, from Foundations, 20 card packs like the Jumpstart packs we know. There'll be 46 different themes. So anybody was thinking that these will just be like theme booster redos, thankfully that's not the case. Wizards seems to have given up on trying to force those theme boosters down our throats, and theme boosters were genuinely a massive failure. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I actually have one right here. So they're basically like 35 card packs where you get one rare, and they'll be based on, like, this one's just all red cards, right? So these did not do well. They reskinned them as Jumpstart packs when the original Jumpstart did well. They went, hey, get this Jumpstart, but it fell apart. The last time we saw that kind of Jumpstart was with the Brothers War, right? So this is going to be what I call proper Jumpstart instead of just reskinned theme boosters, which is great. Now, let's talk about some of the other stuff. We've got a beginner box, which is something that Magic sorely needs. This has 10 Jumpstart packs in it, but these are not the regular Jumpstart ones that we were talking about. These ones probably are closer to the theme boosters. The idea is that these aren't randomized in terms of you can get different themes. Anytime you get a beginner box, you're going to get these specific 10 Jumpstart packs. So you can mix and match them, play them as different decks. It's a real easy way to jump in. Each person only needs to play with a couple of packs, but it also includes reference cards, reference guidebooks, how to play guides, 2 little playmats, and some spin down dice. So it's a box set that is enough for 2 people to start with, which is great. It's a super casual, all right, you don't want to have to worry about building your own deck. You don't have to worry about learning a whole deck. Here you go. You got pirates and goats, slap them together. Now you're Billy the Goat Pirate Lord. Have fun. Smacking down with your pirates riding on goats, boy, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying those are the themes. That's just an example. That's the kind of thing that you can see. I think this is a great choice. But on top of that, they actually have another beginner product that is akin to the Deck Builder's Toolkit, and that is the Starter Collection. So when you get one of these, you get 350 plus Magic cards, 22 of which are foils, 95 of them are basic lands, and 10 are full art. Now, admittedly, 95 basic lands, that's a weird choice. That feels weird. When there's 5 different like colors in Magic, why wouldn't it just be 100 lands? 20 of each, right? Like, there is that. It's a starter collection, but can you really use it for deck building? Are you going to need to buy multiples? That is the one quibble that I do have with it. The 95 basic lands feels weird, and I don't know if that's going to be randomized. I mean, obviously, the 10 full art will probably be the same with each one. So that's a little strange, but it comes with 14 tokens, 2 reference cards, and it also has 3 play booster packs as well, and a special click style life counter. So it doesn't seem like they cheaped out overall on it. These seem like pretty solid beginner products to me. And then on top of the stuff we just talked about, the foundations will also have the stuff we're already familiar with. Collector boosters, play boosters, bundles, and pre-release kits, all of which have the normal contents that we are accustomed to. So foundations will launch like any other set that we've seen in recent times. It comes out later this year, but it does have these excellent beginner products. And I'm genuinely happy to see that, because at this point, like I said, it's been very difficult for people to just easily get into the game. Now, if you know people and you can play Commander with them, whatever, you got other people to bring you in, that's fine. But for people who have an independent interest in it and don't already have a play group of people to play with, this is a great on-ramp, and all of the stuff that they get will be usable for like 5 years, which is fantastic, right? I mean, obviously, if you buy it 3 years down the road, it's only going to have a 2-year lifespan left. But it looks like this might be an ongoing rotating product where they kind of change in different things. It's unclear whether they're going to keep calling it Foundations or do like a Foundations 2030 or, oh man, when I start talking about these future dates, it feels so insane to me. Anyways, that wraps up the Foundation stuff. Let's talk about what's going on with the mystery booster stuff. If you didn't already know, mystery boosters are a pretty cool product that are essentially, they were birthed because of chaos drafts. Chaos drafts were when you would go to an event and they would have a whole bunch of different random Magic boosters, and they would just give you 3 different boosters from completely different sets, completely different blocks, right, to do your kind of drafting with. Normally when you draft, you would use 3 packs from either the same set in current years, or you would use 3 packs from the same block, all intended to work together with mechanics that work together and be roughly balanced together into an environment. But a chaos draft is just that. Complete chaos. Anything can happen. You can get the most broken combos. You can also get like no synergy. So chaos drafts were super popular, and they started to eat up the supply of all kinds of random old boosters. So as a result, the big conventions that were going on went to Wizards and said, hey, we're running out of packs, man. This chaos stuff is really great. Can you help us? And Wizards went, yeah, actually we can. And they made mystery boosters, which was essentially a pool of over 1,500 different Magic cards, all randomized into these boosters. So you had a crazy experience where you never know what you're going to get. And it did quite well. It included special variation playtest cards, which aren't official Magic cards, but we live in the era where non-official Magic cards are still played by people with no worries. So the playtest cards went over quite well. The Eldrazi Sliver is still something a lot of people want. So flash forward to today, after however long of not actually having mystery boosters really readily available, just kind of Wizards, I thought I'd completely forgotten about the product because I mean, there's so many reprints in there, and Wizards is putting reprints into all kinds of different things. You got Secret Lairs full of reprints. You got the special side variation cards like the Big Score and the breaking news stuff from Thunder Junction. Like, I figured Wizards had used up so much of their reprint equity in terms of all these different options that mystery boosters were straight off the table. But it turns out I was completely wrong. I was blindsided to hear, yo, mystery boosters are coming back, edition 2. And I was like, well, is it just going to be more of the same? And it looks like they have made some very smart choices in terms of the changes that they've made. The biggest change, that's the smartest change, is the expansion symbol is now a question mark, which will definitely, it's funny to say this question mark will reduce confusion, because there was some real confusion between mystery booster cards and list cards. So they've made that change. They've also brought in a bunch of crazy frame actions. Some of the choices they've made feel weird to me, but I have to admit, I'm a super old school Magic player, so I've lived through a bunch of this stuff, and so the changes, like the choices they made for card frames and stuff like that, is a little different than what I would have expected, but ultimately I imagine a lot of people are going to like it. And you guys can let me know what you think about the stuff that we're about to look at down in the comments after we've gone through it, because I want to know other people's opinions on this. As somebody who's been around in Magic since the early 90s, you know, obviously I have a very different perspective. So that being said, it's time to go and look at a bunch of cards from the upcoming Mystery Boosters 2 Electric Mr. Lou. Okay, that didn't work. Anyways, let's go look at the cards. We're going to start out by looking at some of the crazy reprints that are included in Mystery Boosters, and then we're going to move on to the absolutely insane playtest cards, including the most busted mocks ever made. But we're starting here with Dark Ritual, which really is a quintessential Magic card from the earliest days, right? From the very beginning of the game, Dark Ritual has existed, and it's a super powerful card. 1 black mana gives you 3 black mana, and at different points in this card's history, it's been an interrupt, an instant, and a mana source. And when it was a mana source, it couldn't even be countered, although in most cases, you're usually just going to want to counter what they cast with the Dark Ritual rather than the Dark Ritual itself. But either way, this card has a lot of history behind it. And I've always found the concept of Dark Ritual to be really cool. You're reaching out to dark powers and saying, lend me your strength. I will do a ritual. I will sacrifice a goat or a goat tickler or a sub sandwich. What do you want? What do you demons wish of me? Either way, really epic Magic. And you might notice this looks pretty strange, doesn't it? The mana cost isn't where you would expect it to be. In fact, if you look up at the line with the name of the card, the only thing you can find up there is this little lightning bolt symbol that's right up here. And that's to indicate the card is an instant. The casting cost is right here. It comes down along the side of the card. This is an old frame. Funnily enough, this is the Future Sight frame. So a long time ago, Wizards of the Coast made a set called Future Sight, and they had these cards that were supposed to be hints of the future. And these cards actually did find their way into future sets, but they gave it a very different card frame to really make them stand out. And ultimately, in today's era, Wizards has made a billion different frames. So this might not stand out as much to you now, but back then, it really felt different, right? And ultimately, Dark Ritual is a great choice to include in a set where you're going throughout Magic's history and setting it up for mega epic drafts, because a first turn Dark Ritual can lead to some real insanity. I remember really hating this card back in the day, where you're sitting there playing any color other than black, and if you don't have a Sol Ring, you just go, all right, well, I guess you're going to accelerate ahead of me. So ultimately, this isn't my favorite Dark Ritual artwork, but it is a really good one. It's interesting with the 3 robed figures down below this eye. They start the ritual, this eye opens up in the sky and starts pouring out this crazy miasma that they can tap into for power. It's somewhat cryptic, which is what a Dark Ritual should feel like, right? Anyways, this is a very cool choice. Then we've got Leyline of the Void, 2 black and 2 for the enchantment that you can put into play if it's in your opening hand, and if a card we put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. A very strong effect that completely hoses graveyard-based decks. Now, this is the first time that it's ever been printed in white borders, and for me it's really strange to see these white bordered cards. The game has come a long way. White borders were originally used for core sets, basically to indicate that these cards were reprints. And back in the day, we didn't play with sleeves. White bordered cards really picked up dirt and damage, and it was incredibly obvious. And on top of that, you knew it wasn't the first printing. So these were like the poor man's versions, and nobody wanted white bordered cards. Like 100%. Nobody's like, cool, white bordered. People would literally take markers. They would take markers and mark up the white edges to make them black bordered. That's how much we want black borders, right? Back in the day. But now things have changed so much that white borders are considered unique by people who are newer to the game. I ran into somebody at the Bloomborough pre-release who was literally playing with old school revised basic lands. The white borders felt distinct, made it easier for him to pick out his lands, that kind of stuff, right? So it's interesting to see how what was once considered detrimental, the white border, is now considered this special exotic, ooh, I've got a white bordered version. And I do like the fact that we've gone the opposite way with it, where before white borders indicated that that was a reprint. Well, in this case, these are all reprints that have never been in white borders, so it's going in the opposite direction. And now in the era where all the cards have sleeves, you end up going, okay, you know what, that's fine. It's not going to show all the hand grease and little black bits that got all over our cards back in the day. Just going ahead, no sleeves, toss a rubber band around them, throw them in a box. Things have changed so much. Anyways, Leyline of the Void is a great card. After that, we've got Show and Tell. So again, this is the Future Sight frame. Show and Tell being a super powerful card where each player can put something into play for free, an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. Obviously, your deck's going to be set up to take better advantage of that. So this is a card that is combo-licious. It might not be the card that everybody's looking for, but a ton of people will be happy to get it because either they want it or they know they can trade it for something. So this is not a bad include. Then we've got Underworld Breach, another epic card shown in the Future Sight frame. It's so funky to me to see cards that aren't going to show up in the future being put in the Future Sight frame because that's what my brain associates it with. But, you know, I've been dealing with Magic history for a long time, so I'm sure it's not that strange to other people, and it's just novel. And Underworld Breach is a pretty crazy card. Given all the cards in your graveyard escape, and then obviously you have to use it like the turn you put it out. So it's put it out, go off, go crazy. Another combo piece. Now we've got Wasteland in the white border as well. Again, it feels so strange to see it that way. And the question mark symbol on it also as the expansion symbol does feel a little bit odd, but again, that is a great choice to reduce confusion, right? If you saw this out in the wild and had no idea that they had made a second mystery booster set, you'd be like, is this just somebody's custom card action? And speaking of custom cards, take a look. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. I forgot about Demonic Consultation. Here I was thinking I had a clever lead in to the whole playtest cards, but instead, we're going to talk about another old school card. This is another powerhouse black card that originally came out in the Ice Age days. Pay 1 black, choose a card name, exile the top 6 cards of your library, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card with the chosen name. You put that card in your hand and exile all other cards revealed that way. I do like the fact that there's risk inherent with this. Like, you can basically go, boom, I can pay 1 black and get whatever card I need out of my deck. But if all the copies of that card happen to be in the top 6 cards of your deck and they get it exiled, you lose your whole deck. You basically go digging through 4, you never find the card, your whole deck gets exiled, and then you lose the next time you go to draw a card, which has that right feel of making a deal with a demon where it's like sometimes it goes wrong. Also, it's totally funny to watch somebody whiff on one of these. I believe once in the past, somebody named a card they didn't have in their deck, and they realized after they played it. And he was just like, wait, oh, I was supposed to put that in. I left it at home. I laughed pretty hard. That was actually in a tournament. So this card has fun memories for me. And I like the fact that this involves, you're basically consulting with a demon-filled bunny. Like, this looks to me like you bring a rabbit. It's like, oh, you had a bad time on Bloomborough, buddy. Boom. Throw him into the mystic circle, and a demon spirit infuses into it, and the bunny gets up. He's like, what do you want? And then you make a deal with that demon, and he reaches into your mind to help you get the knowledge you need. But while he's there, he's also gouging part of your brain out. So that is some pretty epic flavor. Next up, we actually move into the playtest cards. If you've never seen these are not tournament legal cards. These are weird side cards, but we're in the era now where most people play Commander. You've got cubes and things like that. So while you can't use it in technical like tournaments and stuff like that, it's totally possible that these cards can get way more use. They become more widely accepted for play. So Heart of the Duelist is a very interesting one. A blue and 1 for an enchantment that says you may draw cards from anywhere in your library. You don't get to look at them or reorder them while doing so. So basically what it's saying is just go ahead, grab a stack of cards, reach in, pull one out, and that's your draw. Like, that is a fun concept, right? I mean, I guess also, if you have a way to put things on the bottom of your deck, you can totally combo out with this where you go, okay, these are put on the bottom of my deck. I can draw from the bottom of my deck. It says you can't look at the cards, and it says you can't reorder them. But it does not say that you can't take advantage of knowledge you already know, like stuff that's been put on the bottom, right? And when this comes out, you get to draw a card as well. So it feels pretty decent on the power scale, and it doesn't honestly feel too broken. It just feels crazy and fun, so I like it. The artwork literally shows a heart made out of cards, just like my heart. Moving on, we've got Indicate. Now, this one I had to put in because it's hilarious. Somebody took the original card Vindicate, and if you actually take a look right here, you can see this is meant to be plastered over a Vindicate. So the V goes with the rest of this to say Vindicate. Someone back in the day thought it would be hilarious to take Vindicate and just mark out parts of the card. So they took the V off so the name said Indicate, and then they blacked out all the rest of the text so it just said Target Permanent, and the flavor text said You. So this is essentially just a copy of somebody's fan goof card that they made just by markering up another card, and they made it into a real card. It's a lot of fun. I laughed when I saw the original Vindicate modified this way, and I laughed when I saw this, so I knew I had to include it. Then we've got the most busted Mox ever. This thing is insane. It's insane. 0 to put out artifact, tap, add 1 mana of any color, you get 2 poison counters. I know that like Moxes all follow the same standard pretty much, like Mox Amber, Mox Pearl, Mox whatever, but Mox Poison doesn't feel right. This feels like it should be called a poison Mox. This is such a funky concept, right? Like, you need 10 poison counters to lose. So if your opponent's not playing poison, you can use this 4 different times for free with no problems. Like, you're not in any danger of losing the game, and you can get a mana of any color 4 different times. And there's other ways to take advantage of it as well. There are cards that make it so you can't get poison counters, right? So this could totally be used in crazy ways. It's ultra powerful, and the flavor of it is pretty funky too, where it's like a little vial of magical poison that when you imbibe, the poison courses through your veins, but it also infuses you with any kind of magical energy. And that is some epic level flavor, right? On top of insane power. So this is a very cool concept, and This is something that I could actually see one day being a regular Magic card with the level of power creep that Magic is undergoing, right? Like, who knows? Maybe one day that'll be the case. But either way, craziest mocks ever. Then we got Knight of the Flying Merfolk. This is such a weird saga. 1 blue and 2. Look at that artwork. You see the Merfolk leaping up. I love looking at the moon. Also, how big is he compared to the moon? So, this one has bedtime story. You don't put a lore counter on it when it enters. You put a lore counter on at the beginning of your end step rather than your main phase, right? So this thing kind of works in reverse. First level, create 2/1/1 blue Merfolk creature tokens. Second level, put a flying counter on each tapped creature you control. Third level, draw a card for each creature you control that dealt combat damage to a player this turn. I included this one because the artwork is goofy and a reverse saga concept is fun, and this one doesn't actually feel like something that couldn't be a regular card. Some of the ones they do feel completely unworkable as real cards. Then we've got Ren and 1. How much fun is this? You've got Ren, who is essentially a dryad. Her home forest was being burnt down, and she drew the entire inferno into herself and constantly has the inferno raging inside her body. And that had the unintended effect of giving her the ability to planeswalk as if she was like a regular planeswalker with a spark. And so she can only do that when merged with a specific kind of tree. There are very special trees that exist here and there, and she can use her basically song magic to find them and merge with them, and then she can traverse the plains. So this is when Ren was still a child, and this is her first tree, because we go Ren and 6, Ren and 7, right? All the different trees that have merged with her. So this artwork shows her as a child taking her first baby steps after having merged with the very first tree to become Ren and insert number. I really like it. So it's a land planeswalker, which is a very weird creature type. So it's got no casting cost, right? You just put it into play as a land. Ren and 1 for +1 loyalty gains. Tap, add a green mana until your next turn. So by adding 1 loyalty, you can turn it basically into a regular mana producing land for 1 turn. You can -1 loyalty to create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. So theoretically on the first turn you play this, you could put it out, tap it to either get a mana, or you could go instead, I'm just going to remove its loyalty counter to make a green squirrel. And the ultimate is -4. You get an emblem with at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add 1 green for each creature you control. So if you use it as a land for 4 turns, which is pretty easy to do, then you get that emblem that's just going to boost you up with a bunch of mana during your first main phase. So this is a very funky card. I very much enjoy it. Now, that wraps up the video, all the cards that we had to look at. So thanks for coming by, my friends. Thanks as well to my patrons for supporting my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.